Cammy, so when you did
God.
Ballroom, when they told you to work on your posture, did your neck grow like a couple inches?
No. Although, again,
きっと約束だよいつかまた同じ笑顔で
Welcome everybody to the box, the one and only Annie Chat Box. This is episode 60 and I'm Cammy. I'm hosting you today. But of course I am not alone. I have two lovely gentlemen joining me tonight. Starting with the man across the globe who is up really late, bless his soul, while we record. And that is Jonathan Joestar.
Hello everyone.
And, of course, that we are also joined by the gentleman whom used to live super close to me. Now he lives across the country, but he's still not as far away as John, only boasting a 3-hour time difference. That is Gregory.
Hello, Internet. How are you this fine evening? Good, I hope.
Yes, we all hope that you are doing very well. If you are doing well enough to catch up with us off-pod, you can check us out at twitter.com/theanniechatbox. Send us an email anytime at anniechatmail@gmail.com. Listen to us on multiple platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. And if you are feeling ever so generous and find it within your heart of hearts, you can donate to our Patreon at patreon.com/theanniechatbox. All right. And with that out of the way, I have a confession to make.
Okay.
I am an addict, a Fate Grand Order addict.
No.
And it is unfortunate. It is the unfortunate truth. And I have been addicted to the current event that is going on that game. Okay. Fate Grand Order, by the way, is a gacha game set around the Fate universe. And right now they have been doing an event called Fate Zero Accel Order, where they've been recounting the events of the anime Fate Zero, which I have a lot of personal attachment to. And revisiting this event has really got me back all up in the feels with certain characters that I love and realizing how much I loved their development. And that made me think and ask my fellow co-host tonight if we wanted to do some talking about character development for our main topic today. How is character development expressed in anime? Is it physical, mental, narrative, or all of the above? We shall wait and see. Let's see here. I think, actually, yeah, for both of you, when you first heard the term character development as a topic, were there types of character developments that, like, immediately popped into your head?
For me, the immediate answer to character development was the shonen, the underdog story of, like, a shonen protagonist, either in, well, obviously a sports setting or, like, a fighting brawler anime where it's just like, hey, I'm going to be challenged by this obstacle and then overcome it in one way, shape, or another.
What about you, John?
I actually instantly thought of two characters from the one series who both show different kinds of character development. One is a more physical growth in strength, but not really much development as a character. And the other starts off really strong, but definitely grows as a character and becomes I wouldn't say completely different person, but definitely grows as a person by the end of it. And I just really like the dynamic between those two characters in that regard.
Nice.
So
I like that you mentioned development in different areas. You mentioned that there is like development in actual strength, which is more of like a physical attribute. And then you also mentioned kind of in their personality or in like a mental or emotional state.
Definitely emotional state.
Emotional state. Okay.
Mhm.
I will totally say up front that emotional character development is my absolute like favorite expression of it. Usually that is what I get immediately attached to. But I mean, I thought of, like, Craig, I remember you've mentioned, like, power levels before in a lot of shonen. That's, like, a way that they measure it.
Yep.
And funny enough, I think that there is a similar expression of character development akin to power levels in magical girl shows, which is, like, the big granddaddy, like, transformation. Like, the bigger the, like, henshin gets, sort of, and then they have, like, a really flashy attack is kind of, like, the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Of when a character's strength is reached. Like, in Sailor Moon, it's whenever Sailor Moon turns into Princess Serenity. Usually that means, like, oh man, like...
It's go time.
It's go time. This is the height of her character arc right here. Like, we've reached a peak.
It's the power-up or the upgrade.
The power-up.
You could also say that's, in Sailor Moon's case, that's like, hey, you're going up against the big bad. And in that case as well, it's just like, hey, merchandising.
Yes, that's true. More dolls.
Yep.
But yeah, absolutely, John, what you said, it's the power-up. And it's usually, like, I'd say in Shonen and Magical Girl, it's usually motivated by, like, the power of friendship. That is where, like, the character development comes in. It's like the strength and connection of the friendship and the love and the feels, usually. Like, that's where everything comes in. At least especially in Magical Girls, sometimes in shonen there might be a little bit, but I mean, I think back on Naruto and I'm just like, hey, they got all big and strong when they were defending someone they cared about.
I'm just sitting here thinking about Goku and going Kaioken and then Super Saiyan and then Super Saiyan 2, which wasn't much of a change at all, and Super Saiyan 3 and then Super Saiyan Super Saiyan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then Super Saiyan. At a certain point, I feel as though the emotional beats with, like, Dragon Ball got, like, even in Super, maybe. I mean, I haven't watched all of Super, but I feel as though the emotional heights, obviously the first Super Saiyan transformation was triggered by an emotional state. Frieza obviously, like, attacking his friends made him angry. At a certain point, Goku just trained to a point where he's like, okay, I'm going to get bigger and better and stronger. And then he goes Super Saiyan God, then Super Saiyan Blue, then Ultra Instinct, because, again, a more powerful opponent approached him, and he's like, yo, I want to meet your level, buddy, and beat you. Because fighting's fun.
That's true. And like DBZ and a lot of shonen, the measure for character development usually just increases by encountering more powerful foes, right? Like, would you guys say that's correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Same with Naruto and Bleach, really, if you think about it.
The power creep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like I said, even just with magical girl stuff, like, to a degree, I find that really fun. And depending on the shonen, I can definitely fall behind that, like getting stronger and the more like techniques and levels that are learned. I mean, tournament arcs are great. Like, fucking My Hero Academia's tournament arc is the hypest shit ever.
It's interesting though, because we've talked about it briefly, but like, at least My Hero doesn't have the god complex to like say that Deku will eventually have the Super Saiyan Sage mode eventually and surpass All Might. No, his quirks have physical limitations, and he will essentially, like, could probably wind up killing himself. Like Kachan or Bakugo, like, his explosions are fueled by, like, dehydration. The more he uses his explosions, the more he gets wiped out. So.
And there's also the risk of Bakugo hurting his own hands with these explosions. That's a risk he has.
That's true. Everybody kind of has limitations, which then puts a unique spin on them trying to be stronger. But also in My Hero, I think what it does very well is that it has, like, the strength power creep to a degree, but it's also the lessons that are learned either around or after the fact. I mean, for example, the Deku versus Todoroki fight is so impactful. We know that, like, Todoroki won physically, Spoilers, I guess, but like, who the fuck hasn't watched that yet?
Ain't that the truth?
But it's like Deku did win because Deku got Todoroki to come to his senses and own up to his power. And that is an act of true heroism, and that is something that I think shines just as brightly as like a medal. Like, in my mind, I'm still like, Deku, you did awesome. Like, you did it best. Like, you got through that.
It's true.
And then again, he impacted Todoroki, and Todoroki developed through that battle as well, like, character-wise.
To embrace his quirk and make it his own. It's not... The fire and ice is not... The fire portion is not his father's. I mean, that is part of what he is, and he can make it his own and be better. And that's an emotional breakthrough. Emotional development.
Yep. As I said, I'm just such a fucking wuss for that. I love emotional development. I love it when, like, I was thinking about it and I was like, well, what do I consider character development emotionally? It can be a couple things. It's being impacted by those around you to either change or, like, become brave as a person, and that can be through either friendship or romance. Like, for example, just how much the main character... Sawako from Kimi no Todoroki develops socially, like from the beginning of the series where she's lonely and friendless to the end, and you see that sort of pinnacle development reveal itself as a confession or like a break of emotion. Sometimes I like it when characters that put on a front and like kind of are emotionally suffocated finally cry.
Yeah,
like that can be really big to me as well. I love that so much.
I was going to make a reference, but not go too deep into details, but like a good like portrayal of emotional character development, like just how you can change as a person, not through just like actions, but like what your actions do to like make you realize, wow, I need to change for better. Main character and Silent Voice.
Oh my god! Oh, I got crying! Yeah, no, exactly. I just...
Like, without going into too much details, but like, the beginning and ending character of Shoya are vastly different. And we still don't have an English release in the United States, and it upsets me.
There is a dub, and it has my beloved Robbie Damon voicing Shoya.
Yeah.
I hope we get a home release of that soon.
I know.
Anyway, what was that, John? Were you going to say something?
I was going to say that I may have to buy extra copies and ship them over when I get or like stick them across if I visit America before it comes out. If it
Ain't
doesn't.
that the truth?
Wait, you have a UK release already?
Yeah, the UK.
I'm so jealous.
The UK does have a home media release, but we do not yet.
I have it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
With the dub?
I believe it's with the dub.
Yeah.
I'm gonna freaking PayPal you after this episode. Just be like, ship it over. I will pay the full cost. Oh my god.
But like, again, another emotional like breakthrough is just like Cass would like me mentioning this one, Hunter x Hunter. Like, just the emotional stuff that happens with those characters, especially in the later half, Chimera Ant and Greed Island, it gets really heavy-handed, and you see how a person's like one goal can kind of ruin them for worse, and how another person is like, I will support you, but this is destructive in what you are doing to yourself.
And not just the characters that you would think of getting the development. You've got certain villain characters who end up like growing and developing as people in a way that just like, wow, I did not think I would be cheering for these characters to like come out of this.
Yeah, that's the truth.
I'm so into like mentor characters influencing other characters for their development, but you know what else I love? I love the character development of characters who accidentally like become mentors and they like don't even realize it themselves, and then they're like, why do I care so much about blah blah blah, and like they've changed me, kind of like basically where the mentee has the reverse effect on the mentor. Again, I haven't seen it, but like could you say that kind of happens to Piccolo in like Dragon Ball?
Oh, yes,
very much so. Piccolo,
I love that.
Yeah, like Piccolo being like a former villain / rival of Goku at the end of Dragon Ball, realizing, oh man, Goku's gone, I have to train his son. Kind of in a bad way, but at the same time, Gohan thinks of Piccolo as the father towards the end of, like, when he becomes an adult.
That's the thing. He kidnapped Gohan to effectively turn Gohan against Goku, I think was the plan. And then, or something like that, I don't know. I can't remember now.
It was Vegeta and Raditz.
But yeah, and then it's like, okay, I gotta train this kid up because he shows incredible potential. So that we stand a chance against the Saiyans coming, and then just like trying to work with, because Piccolo's kind of spent his entire life alone at this point, pretty much. And yeah, suddenly having to look after this kid. I almost want to quote Guardians of the Galaxy regarding that.
It's also, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but Cammy, it's also another, with the show we're going to be talking about later, you know that even in Kuroko, the rivals will also further better themselves like their rivals. And that's one character, and the show we're going to be talking about is just like, yo, this kid here, he has potential. I want to see him on the stage with me. All right, let's help him out.
That's very true. And in Kuroko, what you said, and like, again, I don't think it goes too far into spoilers, but I mean, that's actually why I really grew to love Aomine's character in Kuroko no Basuke, because he just all of a sudden got pushed into like this mentor role, and he's like, why am I here watching these games and like caring about how they do, and like, why am I teaching them stuff? Oh, I love it. Yeah. I love that so much.
Why is he helping Kagami in the end? And he's like, and they're just like yell at each other and further banter, but they better themselves by essentially being dicks to each other.
Oh my god, yes. And I love, like emotional and people connected character development is usually my favorite. Especially when it can give me a character that I maybe didn't like very much, but then I grew so attached to them, and that is in part of their character development. Like, I love the shit out of Waver Velvet. He is my son.
Yeah.
Did I like him at the beginning? No, I thought he was pretty annoying. Like, I think even at one point I was like, well, where did they drag you out of Junjo Romantica, you fucking, like, UK archetype? But the connection that he has with Ryder, and then like the way he grows to like how he is at the end, just like fills me with so much life. So much.
How is that event and Fate Grand Order with
it's so
Lord
it's so
El
good.
Malloy?
It's so good. And you know what else I realized? Mild tangent, is that when he grows up to be Lord El Malloy, he is wearing like a red jacket and a gold scarf.
Yes, he is.
And when I saw it next to Ryder, Alexander the Great, I was like, he's wearing the same color scheme that Alexander the Great wears, because he's trying to be like Alexander the Great.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, yeah, anyway.
I have to admit, it took Craig pointing out to me a certain detail for me to actually click that he is Waver in Fate Apocrypha.
Yeah, El Malloy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Isn't he in like the first episode?
He's in the first and the end, but there is a subtle nod and wink and a nudge where it's just like, yo, Fate Zero, that was the thing.
Oh, kill me. So good.
But going back to Fate and going back to what I was alluding to at the start of this discussion.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I cry anytime someone's like, "Yeah, I like Fate, but I never watched the original Dean Fate Stay Night series." It's like, oh, but you missed out so much. Because, yeah, it's dated now, but something that is completely missing from Fate Zero and Unlimited Blade Works is all of Saber's character development. And so
that's a shame.
If you remember back to Fate Zero, you've got that scene where Saber, Gilgamesh, and Ixander are sitting around.
It's like the Banquet of Kings, right?
The Banquet
they
of Kings,
yes.
where they had their talk. And Saber talks about her ideals, and she gets called out on it by both Gilgamesh and Ixander. And it's in the Fate route that she finally learns not that her ideals are completely wrong, but learns she grows and learns to accept things as they are, and sort of the futility of her wish, and she definitely grows as a person, and actually opens up, and especially in the game you see some very clear differences in her reactions to certain things that happen. There's a scene, at least in the game, I can't remember if it did happen in the anime, that basically this same incident happens twice. And her reaction each time is, the first time it's kind of non-reaction, but the second time, because she has had that development from her interaction with Shiro, she has a completely different reaction the second time this happens. So
that's kind of a mark or a reflection of her development.
That's a moment. It's see, she's growing and she's developing.
For me, my memory of Dean's Day Night is so marred in the past, and all I can think of is her character development in Zero. I'm just man, she's so cool and chivalrous in Zero.
I mean, even in Zero, while basically she had development in Zero, but it was interesting because it was through seeing the flaws in her ideals. Her whole idyllic frame was shattered, but that is a lesson learned. That is a way that you develop and grow as a person, which was pretty fascinating. And then it's interesting to see how that's kind of the stepping stone for the later development that she gets in the Fate Stay Night, like you were saying.
Yep, for sure.
Shiro being the other kind of character development.
Oh, yeah.
Because one of the reasons why I thought of this in the first place was because I'd previously heard someone say that Fate Stay Night is a terrible series because Shiro has no character development, and I'm well, he develops in strength, but the character development actually happens with the people around him. But I guess you see more of it in Fate Zero than you do in Fate Stay Night. But in Fate Stay Night you do still see not Fate Zero, Unlimited Blade Works rather, of Shiro learning to use his trace ability better. But you see a lot of the groundwork of that actually happen in the Fate route, and they kind of skip over it a bit more in the Unlimited Blade Works route.
Well, Shiro's whole shtick is, I want to be the hero of justice because obviously at the end of Zero, I mean, without going too much into it, he's influenced by an individual to do better than him, and that's where he's like, I will do better and I will do right by him.
Yeah. But the argument is that he starts off Fate Stay Night with this, I want to be a hero of justice and save everyone, and he gets called out on this, like, you're an idiot, you can't save everyone. By saving one person, you are sacrificing another. It's impossible to save everyone, and he's constantly called out on this, but he ends the series as, I want to be a hero of justice and save everyone. Only now I have the strength to actually do it, but no, you still can't do it. You might be stronger, you still can't save everyone. Don't care, I'm going to save everyone.
I mean, I guess that is strong development, though, being able to be staunch enough in your ideals. Because, I mean, he was met by the challenges, he just made the decision to still stick to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very true. It still works out pretty well that he develops.
Yeah, but so he definitely has the growth in strength and his abilities.
Right, physically.
He has the physical growth, but as a character with his personality, it's like he didn't really learn much when it comes to. You didn't really change much. You started off one way and you ended up pretty much the exact same way. But on the other hand, he does have an impact on those around him. Mostly Saber, but to an extent, you do see a bit of Rin's development and a bit of Sakura's development. But that's because the original TV series of Fate Stay Night, they kind of took elements from Unlimited Blade Works and Heaven's Feel and tried to cram them in as well, because they didn't think there was going to ever be any more series of Fate Stay Night. But yeah.
I just like the fact that Shiro is just a meme. Of,
he kind of is just...
Pretty much.
People die when they're killed!
Just because you're... Hey.
Just because you're correct doesn't mean you're right.
Lord.
I actually have one other one that I think dives off pretty well of like how dark fate is. But how do you guys feel about when like sacrificial character death is used as character development? Like, do you feel me? Like when a character's like kind of last call or last stance to make, either as a way to like thank someone they know or like make their final choice, is to basically die in the front of battle.
It really depends on how it's handled, because you can look at, and I can think of two, a good example and a bad example, again, both from the Fate franchise.
Well, because I have one from Fate too. What a coincidence!
I know.
You can harken back to our Fate Apocrypha episode and Cassie's whole spoiler rant about a certain character's death in that series and how it was not handled very well.
I was gonna say I wouldn't go too deep into that.
Yeah, I'm just like, if you've seen Fate Apocrypha, you've listened to our episode, you will know the character death that we're talking about there. If you haven't, go watch it. Or at least go listen to our episode previously. If you haven't got any interest in watching Apocrypha, I'm not going to go into any details here, but the good example is the one I think Cammy is alluding to right now. So I think I'll let you carry on.
I'm just gonna say I think there's a very good one in Fate Zero, and a billion people die, so I'm not alluding to anything. But the character basically makes their point clear and is ready, I think, for death when it comes, and they're already kind of grasping for it, and they're satisfied when they die. And it was just beautifully delivered. And I think also what it is that character felt like they had closure. A big make or break for me with using the death as character development is as long as the character seems perfectly wrapped up and isn't left kind of out in the open without closure. Our good old friends at Atlas that make those Persona games tend to take a lot of my favorite characters and who don't have enough closure and just kill them off. Fuck you, Atlas. And I'm frustrated because I'm like, what about the rest of this character? Like, they bring them
I know who
to
you're talking
an
about.
interesting point. Oh, I could think of 3. I'm not going to name them, but 3 characters in Persona games.
I know who you're talking. All of them.
That they just get interesting, and they're just about to kind of reach something like that they want or that they could have, and then boom, they die. But there's like but you're left hanging like without that, and then I get frustrated because I'm like, well, you're just being lazy, and you don't want to write them. You don't want to write like their resolve, or you didn't have time. And it frustrates me. Like, that's when I don't like it, when death is trying to be used as character development, because I'm like, you could go more in depth. Come on, Atlas.
I can't think of a bad example offhand, but I know a good example. I'm not going to be too specific with it, but during a certain story arc in the show Yu Yu Hakusho, certain characters do die, but it is used as motivation in order to make the team, it makes them... It strengthens their resolve in order to get revenge or avenge their fallen comrade. And then, they obviously take on the villain of said arc or season. I don't know if you guys know, but if not, I'll tell you later.
Yeah, I only got up to like episode 20-something in
Good show.
Yu Yu Hakusho, so yeah, I actually probably don't know.
Okay. Then I won't spoil.
I do like it when it can be motivating to the other characters, but again, I'm just like, as long as it doesn't cut a character short, and I mean, sometimes that's fine for like the shock value or for the greater impact that lasts through the whole show, without naming names. I mean, Gurren Lagann did a pretty good job with that.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, because also, though, it carries over for the rest of the show. I think that's another thing, too. Whereas if a character just randomly dies and then the story forgets about them, that's also unsatisfactory.
Yeah.
For sure, right?
Yeah. So that was kind of my last rant when I was thinking about different kinds of character development.
There's good character development, there's power development, and then there's the emotional development of the arc of a character.
Yep. And if there's anything in particular that, well, obviously, because, I mean, narrative structure is a complex deal and can be expressed in many ways. If you think that there's something that we didn't touch on here that you would like to hear more about, send us an email.
Yeah.
Please. So we can do more fun topics like this. But we are at about the 30-minute mark, and I think that we cover a lot of ground. John, thank you for sticking around with us for the main topic, though you're about to dip on out for our review, right?
Indeed, because I didn't actually watch the series that we're going to be talking about today, so I had fun with this discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did too. Thanks for hanging out there.
Again, anyone who wants to get into Fate Stay Night, please watch Dean Stay Night.
Email John and tell him how you should only watch Fate Zero. No, just kidding.
I was just gonna say, if you're wanting to get into Fate, just watch Zero, because Zero's so fucking good. It's so complex.
Zero is really good, but I still stand by Dean Stay Night being the best entry point. It is old and dated and flawed as it is.
Dude, next time it's all three of us for an episode, I've already got our topic, the Great Fate Debate. We're going to bring up all these controversial ideas about fate, and we're going to duke it out, and Craig is going to sit there and be mediator when you and I get into, like, the crazy stuff, because we're more fate trash than he is. It's going to be great.
Lordy.
Anywho, I need to get out of here before I derail the topic anymore, so... Have fun, you two.
Bye, John.
Bye-bye.
And he has left the call. So that means Craig gets a break from Fate, and we get to talk about the anime that we'll be reviewing today. and that is indeed Welcome to the Ballroom. So to get us started off, Welcome to the Ballroom was a show from I think like the summer 2017
yeah,
season.
It was.
It's been a while, and I definitely noticed that when I was catching up with the rest of it recently. And it is animated by Studio Production IG. You'd know a couple shows from them, cough cough, including Kimi ni Todoke, Attack on Titan, Furikuri, and Haikyuu. The last one I mention in particular because, Craig, I believe you told me that like a majority of Haikyuu's production team was put on Ballroom, correct?
I believe so. I got that information from a friend of the show, Zach, who also listens to various anime podcasts. I believe he got that bit of information from the ANNCast, the Anime News Network podcast. So give them a shout out or a listen if you have the time.
Nice. We'll put a plug for them in the description.
Yeah.
And so the synopsis for Ballroom goes, a professional dancer named Sengoku rescues Tatara, an introverted third-year middle school student. Tatara ends up at Sengoku's dance studio where he meets Shizuku Hanaoka, a schoolmate he comes to secretly idolize. From this defining moment when Tatara enters the world of dance... this is written really weird. Okay, this defining moment is when Tatara enters the world of dance. Sengoku is a free-spirited, dynamic, international dancer who recognizes Tatara's potential and begins to coach him. Through dance, Tatara meets other... friends and acquaintances along the way, a dance prodigy named Kiyoharu, and we mentioned, Shizuku already? Yep. The beautiful Shizuku. There's also Gaju and Mako and lots of other good characters. Through these new friendships, Tatara develops a passionate desire to improve as a dancer and be accepted by his peers and rivals, which nurtures his own native talent. And through interaction with Tatara, other dance members are encouraged to take steps to overcome their own challenges and issues. And the award for the most unreadable malsynopsis goes to Welcome to the Ballroom. Oh my god. But yeah, this is really just kind of your standard like underdog sports anime format, and the sport in question is about ballroom dancing. I think is a pretty fair way to describe the story. What about you, Craig?
It really is. I liked it. It's again, like most sports shows, it's the underdog and trying to find something that he's passionate about in a time of his life where he doesn't really have a passion, nothing, or a real drive or something like that. And then he's captivated by this just by happenstance. He's just swept away into this world. And it was like, while I won't go too deep into this show does have a little bit of flaws in my eyes, but it was a pretty enjoyable ride, all things considered. Cammy, you did take ballroom dancing, correct? If I recall.
I did indeed, yes, for about 2.5 years in college.
Nice. Now, how accurate is this show for ballroom dancing?
So, that's the interesting part. That's what really grabbed me about this show from the start, was the fact that it is about ballroom dancing, because like I said, I did ballroom for a little bit, and I really did have my own little falling in love with the sport, although I didn't do it competitively. I just took classes and did it as recreation. But the reasons that I loved ballroom dancing, or at least that I remember, were different than that of the characters, because the characters are taking this very competitively. It's very shonen sport-wise based. Yep. And so I think for me, what ballroom was so special for is that it brought me together with people. And there's just a really innate, connection you make with people when you have that physical contact and that, kinetic energy together where you're, working on something. And then there is the element of getting better. There was a time when we did do a small little mini class competition for ballroom where we split into groups and made our own routines, and one would be shown at our final showcase. And I did it with a group of friends in the class that I was closest with, and we did end up winning. And that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, we would practice a lot, outside of class, and I struggled a bit with certain things that I got better at. And so, in that degree, I really did still kind of relate. I did. I appreciated Tatara's journey a whole lot. I mean, he comes in knowing nothing, has a bit of a unique like innate talent.
Yeah.
I also like his talent is that he can you help me with, I mean, he sees people and he's able to kind of adopt what he sees more than like work by technique.
It's from what I gather, and this is going to be fun for me to try and recall technical terms here.
Right? Because it's been too long.
It's like well, it's funny too because I watched half of this show literally over the weekend. I think it's shadowing. Like he's able to pick up on their shadow, the silhouettes, essentially. Like he's able to, like get into such a groove where he's like leading, and that's the thing where he's the leader, and he's always got this bit where he's doing the routines and all that sort of stuff. And when people view him, they can see the silhouette of his partner.
Yes.
So
it's
very fascinating.
And later on, I think they bring up the fact that he melds to and complements his follow.
Yes.
Like that's his kind of his strength as a lead. Oh god, and they take so long. Like honestly, that's something about the show that bothered me is for a while, especially in the back half, it felt like so much of the show, more than just like following Tatoru's motivation, was just having external people and Tatara, like, shitting on him and being like, why is he so bad? Like, why can't he get it? He just, like, doesn't do XYZ. And that was frustrating because I wanted to root for Tatara. And a lot of times I did, but it didn't feel to me like they gave him enough, like, levity or moments to shine amidst, like, all the hard work he was doing.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when thinking about other sports anime, Kuroko no Basket, Haikyuu, all that sort of stuff, I mean, they're kind of dicks to each other, but, like, there really is no teams in terms of Ballroom, and without going into too detail of specifics, Tatara, even his partners, can sometimes cause friction with them. I feel as though while they are kind of being dicks, I mean, they do kind of like shit on him, but at the same time, it's all the more satisfying when he proves them wrong in tournaments and stuff like that. So when he dances and he smiles and it's all about the raw emotion and like,
what a good boy.
Like, what is it? When I was watching this show and I thought of it, I was like, this show kind of reminds me, and it's not any way to be compared or related, but it's like, the show reminds me of Yuri on Ice. And the fact that, yes, Yuri on Ice does have problems. It definitely did some good things, but also had some drawbacks to it. But also at the same time, it's a kid trying to better himself while also doing these routines. He's monologuing and you're really getting into his head space the entire time, and it's really fascinating. He's really thinking of what is good about his dance routines as well as what the problem is, and he's like, oh man, I don't know what's going on here with my follow or my partner. I gotta see if I can complement that, and vice versa with the partners. They're also trying to say, oh man, well, it seems like in the case here, it's just like, oh man, this guy's got a leg cramp. Well, I better try and compensate while making sure that the judges don't see this because marks.
I think I was missing kind of like what you said, how there's not like the teamwork aspect. Like that's something that pulled me into Kuroko, even though Kuroko is even an overdog story as compared to like underdog, it's like this or Haikyuu or a lot of other ones. But there was teamwork. There were people that cared about each other. And I think Ballroom gave me glimpses of that with certain characters with Tatara. Like, I loved Sengoku and Tatara's dynamic. I love that balance. I loved Tatara and Mako. But those connections are pretty much at a point, like, just cut the cord and then give me something completely new. And so I don't feel like the show gave me, like, kind of a lasting, like, thing to latch onto to really care about the progression. Because again, like, I did care about Tatara, but like half the time it's just reiterating like why he's bad and why he's not like good enough, and then he gets frustrated and I'm frustrated and I'm like, well, why are we here? Like, why are we caring about this? And again, for me, I'm kind of spoiled because the connections I made with people in ballroom dancing is what was important to me. But also I think that the show, narrative-wise, did a really underwhelming job of expressing, like, the complexities and differences of each type of dance.
Yep.
Because they did different types of dances. They did your traditional waltz. They did Viennese waltz. They did foxtrot. They did tango.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they did salsa. Did you ever really, like, see a difference when they would run the dancing footage? Like, for you, as someone who's not, like, a ballroom dancer.
No, and this is the problem, and this is the main criticisms of the show as a whole, where, and I suppose you could probably, when we talk about production later down the line, we could probably we can revisit this, but it's just like, no, they didn't look any different. And not only that, but you didn't really see the dance. And when you saw the dance, you saw them like do like the motions to do the steps to walk from point A to point B, but it's just mostly face shots and mostly monologues. Again, Tatara smiling, and you can see the sweat drops, like, you know, because this is a high intense like sport, right? I mean, because when you're trying to move and you're trying to sway and all that sort of stuff, and the spotlights are on you, it is on. But at the same time, it's like really unfortunate because the music is playing, but it also didn't seem like it was really on tempo with what they're doing. The only sense of actual like repetition and routine was when he was doing the box step at the studio in the beginning of the show, when he's getting that down for the first time overnight, and he literally worked it so hard to the point where his shoes got torn up, and he's like, I did this all night. And he did the steps, and he was doing the motions of, he was silhouetting, and people were like, damn, he's actually getting it down. But when he went to competitions, I didn't really notice a difference.
And there's like fun things about dance that I feel like they didn't touch up on in lieu of just having kind of like the like sports anime suffering and like development thing, but like the different genres are really cool. Like, I was excited for, like, oh yeah, let's talk about how waltz is, like, romantic and smooth and elegant. Let's talk about how foxtrot and salsa are fun and upbeat, and you keep going. Let's talk about how tango is incredibly sexual.
Yeah.
Like, it is. Like, you are physically so close, and it's very intimate. And I was like, ooh, that's gonna be fun to explore. Because, like, let's explore how innocent little Tatara has to, like, get himself sexual. It's like Yuri and Eros all over again. But we didn't get any of that. They didn't take advantage of that. And that also really disappointed me, because that would have been another good way to get some character development in, make you as an audience care about the sport. Like, outside of the development, Craig, did you care or were interested in the sport of ballroom dancing at all?
I'll be honest and say, not really. I mean, it was cool that, like, he was getting better, but again, you didn't really see it. Like, even when he was doing the training and, like, he had his rivals trying to better him, I didn't get a sense of just like, run it again, run this routine from the ground up. Let's watch tapes like Kuroko. Let's learn about what the tango is, what the salsa is, all that sort of stuff. Or if there was any description of it, I didn't catch it. I don't remember any of it. Sengoku was saying, here's what that is. Tamaki or any of the other initial like people that were instructing him, they're like, yo, just run this routine over and over again, and then yeah.
There was like a millisecond where I remember Sengoku was telling Mako and Tatara that quickstep would be, or quickstep or foxtrot, one of those two, would be really good for them. It would be their chance to shine for XYZ reasons. And then they learned that it was like their chance to be joyful. Yeah. Like, there was a little bit of that, but definitely not enough. And so it's bad because I feel like I'm latching onto story for a really long time.
No, it's fine. I mean, I will say, however, to like rebuttal that, I will say that despite that, I liked seeing him try and get higher in the ranks in these tournaments. Without saying the result of the competition, I liked how him and Mako and the Tepe Cup, I believe it was, how he like learned how to essentially make it so all eyes are directed towards him, all the judges' gazes are on him and follow his partner, present her to the audience so she is elegant and make it so, like, without going into
that form.
Yeah, to essentially would say, like, look, she knows how to dance and she is a damn good partner.
Absolutely. I loved that, the Make Me Bloom thing. Like, that was all really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I do also think, though, another thing with this story is that I feel like it spends a lot of time reiterating the same thing to lead up to a point where it takes, like, 3 episodes to get to, like, a point. Like, I swear we saw the Make Me Bloom thing at, like, the end of one episode, and then they, like, do the background that leads up to it, and she says it in the middle of one episode, and then halfway through we get to that lead up, and then in another episode we finally get, like, the scene of blooming. Like, it felt very long-winded in some cases to me, especially with fucking Kiyoharu, who I will get into during character, but, like, all he does is sit in the audience and vaguely talk about, like, well, this is what I expected. This isn't what I expected. Everyone's like, what? And then he doesn't say anything. And then we ask later, and then you see the look on his face, and he clarifies it, and it's like, good God, just get to the point.
I think, like, it's weird because I tried to draw, like, a character comparison with Kiyoharu or Hyodo, however they address him, because they interchangeably use his name. I was like, what Kuroko character are you? And I'm like, you're either...
Dude, yes.
You're either, like, the... what is it? You're either the Akashi or you're the Aomine, where you're just like, I got the skill. I'm better than you. Sort of mentality, but also it's just like, I'm so laid back and I look like I'm bored half the time. Okay, I'm gonna sit in the audience the entire time, and it's just like, show me what you got, kid.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison. I think if I had to say a Kuroko character, I would say that Kiyoharu Hyodo ends up a lot more like Akashi. Also, just in the fact that sometimes he was so polarizing. Like, and this is something I'll steer us into characters in general. A lot of the characters felt kind of polarizing to me, where, like, one end of their emotions and the other didn't always line up.
No.
Like, Kiyoharu is either lazy and apathetic, or, like, he's fucking enraged and looks like a madman when he's, like, dancing.
Yeah.
Or he's, like, fucking super pissed at, like, Tatsura. And I'm like, what are you? And then all he does by the end of the show is just stand around and look vague and, like, say vague things and walk around all, like, ambitiously. I feel like he was so underutilized, and it frustrates me. Because they build him up and then just drop him. And I think that's something that a lot of the characters in the show, it's something they do. They build them up to something, not always where I'm invested with them, but I'm like, I could be, but let's drop off of them. Like,
well, like, let's be honest, that's with most of the cast, like you said, like,
yeah.
For example, you're introduced to Shizuku and Kiyoharu at the beginning. Shizuku is paper thin personality. She is the girl, she is the damsel in distress, in the sense of when they introduce Gaju and Maku, Gaju is like, girl, you mine. Mako's like, oh, well, brother, what? I thought I was your partner. And then that's that whole spiel, right? And then Kiyoharu just kind of at that point comes back and just kind of sits in the background and makes, like, comments. A character that I did not care for in this entire show is Kugamiya. Like, he is the
Oh my god!
He is the Murisakibara of this show, in the sense.
That's exactly what I said, Craig! Like half an hour ago, when I was watching the last episode, I said he's fucking Murasakibara. We're on the same wavelength.
Like, in every sense of the word, and I'm not going to say specifics, but there's a bit where I was like, oh my god, I've seen the direct parallels with you. You don't give a shit about dancing, but you're in this thing, man. You're in it to win it. But
see, I feel like they tried to do the Murasakibara thing with him, but it didn't work.
No.
Like where it worked with Murasakibara.
Nah.
Like, that's a problem.
It's just like, at the end, I mean, while these characters did try, and Chinatsu being the character and that's introduced in the mid game and then goes all the way to the end, they like try to make Tatsura better. I feel as though they still can be kind of antagonistic towards him, but I wanted to see without going into specifics, I wanted to see more action with Gaju and Mako. I wanted to see more action with Kiyoharu and Shizuku. I wanted to see more action. Well, I mean, it's just instead of them commenting. But then again, I guess that kind of goes without saying where they end up in the show. It's just like, I like the fact that it's centered on Tatara and whatnot, but again, at least we have Tatara as a good character and bright, chipper personality.
Yeah, Tatara's a good lead that you want to root for. My favorite characters, since I feel like we've ranted, and I've ranted a lot. Let's get back to good things. Yeah. My favorite characters definitely ended up being Tatara, Sengoku. I really love Sengoku's personality. He's fun.
Yeah.
You can see why he's admired, and I like his partner as well. Shout out to her. She's great.
Hongo.
And yes, Hongo. And Mako. I adore Mako. She was kind of my anchor for like loving the shit out of the show. My favorite episode and my favorite scene were from episode 5 and were kind of centered around her introduction. And I just felt like I really wanted to root for her. I felt like she and Tatara were a team, and a team that like understood each other and that I wanted to root for a lot. And I love them, and that was my favorite part of the show.
Yeah,
there we go.
I can agree with that. I liked Tatara as the lead. I liked Sengoku, however, without going into specifics again, I feel as though he's introduced and then they don't really utilize his character, or he's seen all that much.
They cut it off, even though it was one of the most compelling parts of the show.
Yeah.
No, that's what I hate.
And then they introduced another character, the blonde lady, and I'm like, I don't really care for you, lady.
Yeah, Marissa.
Marissa.
Yeah, I don't really like Marissa either.
And then Mako's good, but I also, at first I was kind of like, I don't really care for Shinatsu, but I wound up liking Shinatsu in the end. Also,
that's awesome.
On that, like, I like the girls kind of have themes with the colors. Shizuku is blue, Mako is yellow, and Shinatsu is fire red. It's really cool theming. I like it.
Was good for striking imagery too,
for
like
sure.
Their character designs. So to dive into it briefly, and again, it's like, oh man, how far do we go outside of like spoiler stuff? I love that Shinatsu is a girl with like her own agency. She's not meek.
Yeah.
She roots for herself.
Yeah.
She is a very strong-willed character, and I respect that about her. I just found that for me, she was very hard to like. It was like, I respect you from a distance, but like, do I like you? No. Like, if I was in her presence, I feel like she would make me feel uncomfortable and bullied, and I wouldn't want to be around her.
She'd be like you'd go up to her, and she'd be like, what do you want, punk? And you'd be like, oh god, I'm sorry, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like her presence is just kind of a chore for people to be around, Tatara included.
Yeah.
But you've expressed before, and I think it is true, is that she helps characters grow, and especially Tatara, and she is compelling in that way. I just didn't really enjoy her, but I do think that she's a compelling and strong character.
It's interesting in the fact that Mako and Shinatsu do different...
are so different.
They're vastly different personalities, different, like, again, themings, but, like, they also do something different for Tatara. Tatara learns how to lead properly and present his partner with Mako, whereas Shinatsu, he learns to lead, but also learn with Shinatsu, without going into too much detail, that she's been through stuff. She's danced before. So how does he handle a person with raw power and experience? How does he channel that and make it so they both shine in the end?
Yeah, and I honestly, actually, just from my glimpses of time in Ballroom, I do really respect also her narrative of basically being a girl who's always been a lead and doesn't know how to follow.
Yes, exactly. And
that was really good.
That's the cool dynamic that I was like,
yeah,
man, how is this going to happen? She's not good at following. He's good, and like, he's not.
And he's not good at leading. So.
Well, he's that's all he has, but it's like he's not good at leading someone that's already like, no, you do it this way. And he's like, okay, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. honestly, I think I would have been more compelled to the show, and a lot of people who are really into like the social commentary that the show makes, I do think it would have been fucking cool if instead all of a sudden it's like, okay, Chinatsu's gonna lead and Tatara's gonna follow. They're both gonna wear tuxes. Let's fucking go. That would have been amazing.
Well, it's interesting too because Tatara did in the training camp, like they go through, he does wind up being the partner for some extent, and he's like, oh my god, this is so challenging. I never knew that it's that bad.
Yeah, that perspective he got. That's very true. So yeah, I mean, I think that's really awesome that you like Chinatsu. I wish I was more attached to her, just especially because story-wise she becomes so prominent, like almost that everybody else is like cast aside in lieu of her.
Yeah.
So I just wish I liked her more. She's another character, I think, again, where it's like her kind and soft moments and her fucking fierce moments, they just didn't connect for me. Like, I was like, is this the same character?
Yeah.
Like,
it's really weird where she can kind of come off as super nice and fangirly to Hongo, but then come off as super bitchy towards other characters. But, I mean...
But, you know, whatever. Like, she's a person. She's there. I actually did also, I will say one of my favorite episodes was actually the background we got with her and her childhood friend, Akira.
Yep.
I actually really liked that episode.
Damn.
As I was explaining to you earlier. I don't know, I just found it compelling. I think it was also because in that episode, seeing how Akira and Chinatsu were as friends felt a bit more realistic than some of the portrayals I'd seen, or like the way that Chinatsu and Tatara act. Was it a fully healthy relationship? No. But it was complex and it felt believable to me, I guess.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. I definitely appreciated that episode in and of itself.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've done super good on characters.
Yeah.
So another giant topic to open up. Production!
Cammy, so when you did Ballroom, when they told you to work on your posture, did your neck grow like a couple inches?
No. Although, again, recreational versus competitive.
Damn.
And I think I told you that I also researched, like, ballroom pose, like the hold pose, just on Google.
Yeah.
And what is true is, like, the nearly bent over backwards position that some of the females' backs have is kind of realistic.
Okay.
But the thing is that the animation in Ballroom just, like, goes the
distance.
100th extra mile just to be so over the top that it's uncomfortable. Like, honestly, some of the scenes in especially the first even like 3 episodes, like there's a clip where Hyodo yawns, and it's like the most terrifying thing I have ever seen.
His mouth, his jaw just drops, and you're just like, this is a cartoon. I will say, again, contrasting that, it was very off-putting at first, but you know what? I kind of got used to it over time. I checked out a few chapters of the manga, and I don't think the art, and maybe I didn't catch up or pick up on this in the manga, like a couple pages or whatnot, but like I didn't see the next lines in those being egregious, but like maybe the production team in this was like, okay, we're going to have such dynamic shots to a point where their necks are going to be like, they're going to do swings and they're going to do crazy ass like grins and they're going to like gleam. Their eyes are going to be like wide-eyed and their necks are going to be like really exaggerated just to get that shot. And weirdly enough, I kind of liked it as the show went on. I don't know why. It was weird.
That's awesome. I'm really glad you did, honestly.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, I think I got used to it, but it also just felt
forced,
bizarre, a little forced, especially on like Kiyoharu, because again, like sometimes it was just so polarizing, like really intense. Also, can we talk about how when it got like deeper into like the character's dance development, you get these weird like super like artistic shots where like the characters are like naked and they had like the 4 legs and it's super shady and it's like, and then there's like all this weird flowery stuff and I was like, I feel like I'm looking at one of those like Christian European paintings. Like, where did this come from? What happened?
I don't know, but it's like it was really weird. The 4-legged silhouette, like with one of the characters.
Oh god, do you remember when they go to see Sengoku dance and then it becomes like drowning, but like it's just absolute nightmare fuel, like how much everything warps and like suddenly they're underwater and I was like, ugh!
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. It's something else. That said, I mean, outside of like the crazy ass draft necks, I like the music, but again, you don't see the people dancing to the music all that often, or it doesn't seem like it matches up.
Yep. So I guess also I didn't fully encapsulate, but my quick feelings on the art is that it had beautiful, almost like too detailed art design.
Okay.
Like everything had lots of nice detail. It looked beautiful, but then it didn't animate well.
I wasn't
like,
fluid.
It was not fluid, and that was a big challenge for me again because the feeling of motion and the rush and like exhilaration that I felt ballroom dancing was not exposed in the way that they chose to animate it. As we said,
when you say it's not fluid, you mean like, again, the flaw of this show is like they didn't show enough dance and it was too many close-up shots of their faces and monologues?
There were too many stills, and even like all the moves they did, whenever they would do a move, it was usually slow or it was just them swinging.
Yep.
They could have gotten more dynamic with the angles that they chose to go, had a bit more of a traveling camera, would have been really nice, bigger sweeping shots, and it just didn't. I mean, honestly, when I think of like fluid, beautiful animation to express motion, I mean, the way that Your Lie in April animated the piano scenes and that movement, that felt fluid, that had more movement and was akin to the art form than what Ballroom did.
Would you prefer the Yuri on Ice where they recycled the routines?
See, that's the question. Hey, they recycled so much fucking shit in this anime.
Yeah.
Like down to the final episode, which was like 70% recap and reanimated frames from like the opening when it grabs the hand, grabs the waist, steps out. All they did was change the dress and like character features to make it Chinatsu. I was pissed.
Yeah. I mean, too many draft necks. Too many draft necks.
I'm sorry, Craig. I have a lot of
it's fine. It's fine. Like I can't excuse it much myself. I just got used to the draft necks. They were captivating in themselves. You see them in their natural habitat, the ballroom dance floor.
Like, eventually the necks were fine, but, like, I mean, I know what you mean, because basically Yuri on Ice took the route of, we are going to basically rotoscope, like, the entire routine and make it all in movement, but a lot of it, the movement will look janky. Whereas Ballroom takes the approach of, we are going to have images that are beautifully rendered, but they're not gonna move.
Yeah, and...
You know?
Yeah, it's just... It's so weird where I don't know, again, going back to when we discussed Fate Apocrypha, it's just like, I would love to know the budget of this show. I would love to know the budget of Yuri on Ice. When Yuri on Ice was airing, I watched it, and I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? It's recycled footage, but at the same time, Yuri is only doing the Yuri on Ice routine and Eros, right? Like, he's running the same routine over and over again in these competitions. While it was recycled, it's still kind of it's still not really forgivable, but they should have at least rendered that whole motion out like to be a little bit more dynamic, or at least make it more cool.
Yeah,
Ballroom,
I think so.
Ballroom, they didn't even show any motion at all. Well, where they did, they just showed very little of it, where they're just going from point A to point B on the ballroom dance floor, but it didn't match up with what it is. Like, I didn't recognize what the salsa or the tango or the waltz or the foxtrot or I was just like, well, if anything, I'm glad that I'm getting the inner thoughts of Tatara and Chinatsu, or Tatara and Mako in this instance.
And just, they didn't take advantage, going back on that music point that you brought up, they didn't take advantage of diegetic sound. And I'm pulling out this term from my film major, so pardon me about that. But diegetic sound is any sound presented as originated from the source within the film's world. So diegetic sound in the case of the dance competitions would have been the tracks that they were dancing to. And so what we would have seen them synchronized up to.
Yeah.
Ballroom instead decided to do non-diegetic sound by adding this weird, like, atmospheric track that didn't really match up to the movements, while then they presented us with the characters' like internal monologues.
Yep.
And in dance, the synchronicity of the music and the movements is what matters. And there's a lot of very fun and varied like dance tracks that you can use that will highlight the differences of the dances and will show you really the strength of like timing, the moveset, the energy of the couple. If they would just give us the song they were dancing to, but they didn't. And so again, it dulled down the impact of the actual sport, which was a huge disappointment.
Yeah.
The other realm of music that I could talk about is I did like both the show's openings and endings, actually. I liked the endings, too. They were good.
Yeah.
They were fun.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree to that. You know, Unison Square Garden, I never skipped the opening. I'll be 100% honest and say I skipped the end.
Yeah, no.
I skipped the endings because I was just like, okay, next episode. Well,
so did you not catch? Okay, my favorite thing with ending one is that as the story narratively progresses to like Tatara having a partner and then having like a different partner and doing that, the silhouettes of like the characters dancing, because there's a bit of that in the first ending, would change. So like in episode 5, which killed me anyway because it introduced Mako, and I'm like, oh man, I would love to see Mako and Tatara match up. Yeah. In the ending, it finally changes from just Tatara dancing alone to him dancing with Mako, and I died.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute as fuck.
It was so cute. Oh, it was so cute. I love it. But yeah. Yeah. Ending 2, just kind of did the same thing, but I liked the visuals of it, and the songs were just cheerful enough. Nothing like super special as compared to the openings. The openings also had really good visuals, too.
Oh, yeah. Very striking. Face to face!
Yeah. Oh my god, face to face, and just like that whole thing of Chinatsu and Tatara dancing like in the mud and rain was so cool.
Yep. Staring each other dead in the eye.
When I first saw that opening, I was like, holy shit, okay, they're pushing the ship. I see this now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I thought voice acting was good. Did you think voice acting was good?
Voice acting was A-okay. It did what it was supposed to. I liked the performances. I honestly didn't go in depth and look who voiced who, but you know, they did a damn good job. I'm very curious to see if this show will actually get a dub and who will play who.
Good point. Yeah, I'd like to see that too, actually. All right, that being said, do you feel all right to go into ratings?
Ratings away!
All right, you get to go first since I passed this show.
Okay, so Welcome to the Ballroom is a complex, emotional roller coaster of an anime. The complex journey of the giraffe people, where they attempt to dance while monologuing. For real, though, this show is incredibly flawed. Like, I completed this just yesterday, and I was debating whether or not, on the Richter scale of 1 to 10, what to rate this show. While there are aspects of the show that I like, there are plenty of things wrong with it. The animation obviously is cutting corners with a lot of the dancing routines. The sound, obviously, diametric, what Kami said earlier, is cutting corners on that. A lot of the cast kind of shits on the main character in one way, shape, or another. But on the whole, Welcome to the Ballroom, I liked it for what it did, but it was incredibly flawed. On the whole, I would say a low like it to this. Really just, if you want to watch it for what it is, just know that it's got problems. Tatara's a good lead. Chinatsu's a good foil to him. Mako's a good girl, but they're
A good
girl. But like the supporting cast also kind of has problems as well outside of them, where some are more fleshed out than others, and then you have Kugamiya, which I didn't care for. But yeah, that's all I got.
No, I think that's totally fair. I'm really glad that you opened the floor saying that Ballroom is a very complex experience, because I would definitely say that my time spent with this anime has been a lot of changing emotions, and it's complicated to think of a rating for this show. What is definitely true is that I went into this show with far too high expectations, and I think regardless, the show never could have really delivered on all of them for me.
Yeah.
So part of that is on me, just because I loved ballroom dancing, the time that I spent with it, and thinking of having an anime about it just, like, you know, drove me nuts, and I'd heard great things about the anime, or not the anime, the manga.
Yeah.
But I wasn't giving it an open chance. I just kind of was like, well, are you going to be here, and are you going to meet up to my own experience or what I think you have planned? So looking at it that way, I appreciate that I appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
There were definitely things that I did care about. If I hadn't cared completely, I don't think I would have gotten as frustrated as you heard me get very frustrated during this review. Just on certain aspects.
Listen,
especially when it came to... Oh, what's that?
I was just going to say, listen, you're just really passionate about Best Girl and Precious Son Tatara.
I am. It's true. It's true. Like, there were things that were good that I really did care about and did get invested in. When it let me down, I was more frustrated than apathetic, because somewhere deep down I do care about things about this show.
Yeah.
And I am happy that I saw it. Again, deeply flawed on multiple levels. A lot of things were just executed in a disappointing way.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend, if you want to get into Welcome to the Ballroom, though it's on a long hiatus, please read the manga. I think the general consensus is that the manga is a lot better than the anime's adaptation.
Yeah.
And honestly, at points, just the way the anime executed things, I felt like the narrative was a bit of a slog to get through via watching the anime, where things are reiterated and such. And maybe the manga paces itself better.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, my range of opinions for wanting to rate this goes from a skip it to a like it.
Dang.
And I think what I am going to do, partially because it's just so polarizing, but also just to be safe, I am going to give it a solid check it.
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons. It's a unique story. You don't find a lot of things about ballroom dancing. I mean, shit, in the realm of anime and things. So check it out, see it for what it is, because it's unique, and maybe you'll latch onto it more than I did,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you won't check it out, but I would definitely put it there. I would recommend, though, if you are interested in getting a Japanese take on ballroom and you want less of a commitment, and in a way that I think executes the appeal of ballroom dancing and the Japanese culture aspect better, there is a film, a live-action Japanese film called Shall We Dansu? And if you're looking it up, spelled Dansu, D-A-N-S-U, as in, like, the Japanese pronunciation, because there was an American one, Shall We Dance, but it wasn't very good. Shall We Dansu is about a middle-aged salaryman who discovers an interest in dance in kind of like his midlife crisis. And it tackles, like, his development as he is getting swept up into dance. There's a really fun, like, comedy aspect to it. And it also does the cultural aspect of what Japanese people think of this weird, like, Western-style dancing.
Yeah.
Really enjoyable film. I watched in my Japanese cinema class in college. I definitely recommend it. And check out the manga. So if you've exhausted all that, give the anime a check out.
Yeah.
That's about it.
All right.
I mean, I feel like we kind of ended up spoiling a lot of stuff already. Did you want to?
No.
Did you want
I mean,
yeah.
let's be honest. We really didn't we talked about the story, but not in great detail. Like, the only thing to really spoil is the results of the tournaments. We got all the characters out of the way. We talked about the flaws about the animation. I mean, like we both said, it did what it did, although it was kind of flimsy with it. But Tatara is a good son, so yeah.
Yeah, the only mild spoiler, go about 30 seconds into the future if you want to avoid it. Like, the only thing I can really mention is that I didn't really ship Tatara and Chinatsu, and I feel like they were pushing that so hard by the end, but I just didn't care. Like, I could appreciate them as partners, but I was like, I don't feel the romantic chemistry. Like, where's Mako? Just give me Mako and Tatara.
I just like the fact that Gaju always got flustered every single time Mako was brought up. Like, he's such a doting brother, but also at the same time, I like how as soon as that competition ended with him and like the whole Mako arc, he went from a dick to, yo bro, give me your cell phone number. And Tatara was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm going to get killed.
He basically adopted him as his other wing bro. Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, outside of that, yeah, I think we covered most of the spoilers.
Yeah, essentially. Still not a big fan of Kugamiya, and yeah, I don't know. That guy always kind of came off as creepy.
Yeah, I wanted a good backstory. I don't feel like they did a good backstory with him. I feel like they did do some good backstories, like One Shot. Again, I really loved Akira's backstory. And while she is a flawed character, I found her story with Chinatsu really compelling. And she wasn't even the final antagonist.
Yeah, it was weird because Kugamiya had a good backstory, in my opinion, at least. I'm talking about a man that wasn't feeling it. And he's like, I want to die. And I'm like, oh, damn. But then again, it wasn't really as dark as it could have been. And then he's like, yo, you can learn to dance again. He's like, I fucking hate you, God. No, the devil's on my shoulder. And he's like, hey, I guess I'm going to pull right back into dance again. Yay. And I'm like,
I was like, why the fuck don't you just quit? Clearly, that was my thing. I'm like, you clearly, this isn't healthy. So you should just quit. I couldn't, man.
No.
I couldn't.
No. Okay.
All right, that I think that concludes our little unofficial mini spoiler room. Yep. And that also concludes episode 60 of the Annie Chat Box. Thanks so much if you stuck with us throughout this whole thing, all my ranting, all our ballroom discussion. Yeah. And we're gonna dance our way on out of here. And so, yeah, we bid you adieu and good night.
Adieu to you and you and you. God, I can't believe we're on episode 60.
And more to come. Stay tuned.